Little Women, Part 1. A letter from Father. It was 2 days before Christmas. Meg, Jo, Beth, Amy March were sisters. Meg was 16 and she was very beautiful. She had big eyes and beautiful long brown hair. Jo was 15. She had dark eyes and long brown hair. Beth was 13. She was very quiet. Little Amy had blue eyes and yellow hair. It was 6 in the evening and the girls were at home. They talked about Christmas. Jo wasn't happy. "It's Christmas and we aren't going to have any presents," she said. Meg looked at her old dress. "I know, Jo," she said, "but we don't have much money." Amy said, "My friends are going to have presents. I want some presents too." Beth smiled. "We don't have any money," she said, "but we have Mother and Father, and we're happy." Jo didn't smile. She said, "We don't have Father. He is away in the war and he's not coming back for Christmas." "Maybe he isn't going to come back," the girls thought, but they didn't say it. "We have a little money," Meg said. "What can we buy?" "I want a new book," Jo said. She loved reading. "And I'd like some pens," Amy said. "I don't want any presents," Beth said. "Let's buy presents for Mother. We can put them on the table for her on Christmas Day." "Yes," said Jo. "Let's do that. We can buy them tomorrow. What can we get for her?" Then Mrs. March arrived in her dark coat and old hat. She called, "Children, I'm home." "Hello, Mother," the girls answered. "Come and kiss me, girls," Mrs. March said. They went to her and she smiled at them. "I have a letter from Father," she said. "Let's eat and then we can read it." Later in the evening, Mrs. March said, "Sit down now, girls. I'm going to read Father's letter for you." It was a happy letter. Father didn't talk about the war. The letter finished, "Give my love and a kiss to my little women. A year is a long time, but I think of them every day." The girls were very unhappy. They wanted their father. They thought about his letter. "I'm going to be good this year," Amy said. "I don't like my work," Meg said, "but I'm going to do it well." "I want to be a little woman for Father," Jo said. "I'm often angry, but I'm going to stop now." Beth didn't talk. She looked at the floor. "Don't be unhappy, girls," Mrs. March said. "Let's play a game." After the game, Beth played the old piano. Then Mrs. March said, "Good night, girls. Sleep well." She kissed her daughters and the 4 girls went up to bed. Christmas Day. On Christmas morning, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy opened their eyes and looked under their beds. There were 4 books there. Meg's book was green. Jo's was red. Beth's was white and Amy's was blue. "Oh, Mother," they thought, "you are good to us." Meg opened her book and started to read it. Her sisters listened. Later, they went down to the kitchen. Hannah was there. She lived in the house and she helped Mrs. March. There was food on the table. "Where's Mother?" Meg asked. "I don't know," Hannah answered. "She went out very early." Amy looked out the window. "She's coming down the street," she said. "Quickly," Joe said. "Put her presents away." Mrs. March came into the house. "Good morning, Mother," the girls called. "Where were you?" Joe asked. Mrs. March answered, "I went to Mrs. Hummel's house. She has 7 small children. They don't have any food and they're very cold." She looked at her daughters. Then she said, "It's Christmas, girls. Can we give them our food?" The girls looked at the food. They wanted to eat, but they said quickly, "Oh, yes, Mother. Can we take it?" They went to the Hummels with a big bag of food. Later in the morning, the girls said, "Here are your presents, Mother." "Oh, thank you. You're good children," Mrs. March said. She looked at her presents and smiled. In the evening, the girls' friends came, and the girls acted for them. They loved acting, and their friends had a good time. Then Hannah said, "Come and eat, children." On the table, there was a lot of food and some fruit and candy. The girls looked at it with open eyes. Where did it come from? "It's from Santa Claus," Beth said. "No, Mother did it," Meg said. Joe said, "It's from Aunt March. Maybe she likes us on Christmas Day. She doesn't usually like us." "You're wrong," Mrs. March said. "It's from old Mr. Lawrence. You see him sometimes. He lives near here." "Yes, but we don't know him," Meg said. "He was a friend of my father," Mrs. March said. "He knows about the food for the Hummels. This food is for you from him because you didn't eat well this morning." Joe's friend said, "My mother knows old Mr. Lawrence. He is a good man, but he doesn't see many people. His daughter's dead, and her son lives with him. The boy's name's Lori." "I want to meet Lori," Joe said. "We don't know many boys. Maybe he can act." "He can visit us," Mrs. March said. Joe smiled. "Oh," Beth said to her mother, "we're very happy, but Father isn't happy." "No," Mrs. March said quietly. She kissed her daughter. "I want to see him," Beth said. "I want to give him a present." "I know, Beth. I know." This is the end of part 1. In the next video, we will read the rest of the story.